Welcome to Community Talk, a public affairs presentation of the MSA United Way and Super Talk 1270. Now your host, Jenna Gullo.
Welcome to United Way's Community Talk. I am your host, Jenna Gullo, the MSA United Way Executive Director, and co-hosting with me this morning, Mr. Scott Hansen.
Oh, glad to be here.
Thanks for being here, Mr. Hansen. Thanks for putting these shows together, and a special thanks to Town Square Media, Super Talk 1270, and our friend Jim Walsh. Thanks, Jim, for being here. We have a really good show today. Thanks, Scott, again, for putting it together. Scott, we were talking in our office about all the changes we've been seeing in the Bismarck Mandan community, and you thought it'd be a great idea to bring in our friend, Brian Ritter from BMDA.
I am excited to be here, Jenna.
Thanks for being here.
Fantastic.
You are excited.
You know, I don't know why people always look at me with that face when I start shouting into a microphone. Come on, it's 11 o'clock. I'm just starting to wake up a little bit.
Well, you're going to wake everybody in the audience up, that's for sure. Let's hope it's no one's alarm clock.
Here we go.
Wake up, Bismarck Mandan.
Buckle up.
Yeah, no, we've seen a lot of really exciting changes over the last few years. I can't believe it's been almost 10 years since I moved to Bismarck, North Dakota.
Has it really been 10 years?
It really has been. Wow. And, you know, it's interesting. When I came, we had the old airport. So since then, we've gotten the new and improved, the humongous four-gate airport.
You need them all.
Yep.
You need them all, and we might even be a little bit short because don't forget that American Airlines starts flying out of Bismarck October 2nd, direct flights to Dallas-Fort Worth and Chicago O'Hare.
You know, that's really exciting, Brian. And what role did BMDA play in helping to bring in the new airlines? You have Frontier now. You have Allegiant. How long has Allegiant been here?
Allegiant's been here for probably about the same amount of time that you've been here as well, Jen. I think what's important to realize, everything that happens in this community, nothing happens by itself. Nothing happens in a vacuum. And so an effort like that to bring a new airline, whether it's Frontier or added United service or American starting in October, everything truly is a partnership. It's a community effort. And so God bless the good people at the Bismarck Airport, the Bismarck Mandan Chamber of Commerce. There are a tremendous amount of community partners and effort that goes into an airline or an effort like that. For instance, anytime we talk to an airline or a new service provider about coming to our community, of course they want to quantify. You know, it's one thing for me as the paid guy to come and say, hey, we need you in our community. But whether it's a hotel developer, whether it's an airline, whether it's a new business, they want to see facts. They want to see numbers. They want to see figures. They want to know exactly what are those dollars being spent in the community.
So which entity in the community is responsible or tasked with that?
Well, I would say for the statistics portion, we are very well positioned. The BMDA, also known as the Bismarck Mandan Development Association, we've been around since 1979. And our organization was originally formed as a downtown redevelopment organization because at that time, believe it or not, Gateway Mall just opened up. Kirkwood Mall had just doubled in size. And so we needed an organization to help revitalize the downtown. This is before the downtowners, who do a great job of it now. And so our organization was tasked with doing that, successful in that, grew into community-wide in terms of the city of Bismarck, and then grew into metropolitan-wide, Bismarck, Mandan, Burley, and Morton County.
Which you cover Burley and Morton County, the entire counties. That's great.
Yeah, so we've got projects over all those boundaries. And our main function is to promote sustainable economic growth within Bismarck, Mandan, Burley, and Morton County. Now, if we go back to when you first came here, Jenna, that job meant job creation. That meant bringing new jobs to Bismarck and Mandan because we had a tremendous amount of people who were underemployed. I don't want to say unemployed because we've never had a huge unemployment rate here. But you had a population that was underemployed that was looking for better employment.
Can I ask, what was the unemployment rate about 10 years ago? Do you have any idea?
Probably 5. Okay. Maybe a little over that. We've never really been above 5%.
Great.
And so 10 years ago, it meant creating new jobs, and we were very successful in that. Whether it was Aetna, formerly U.S. Healthcare, Sykes, Coventry, Unisys, Bobcat expansions, things like that. And so that's what we needed. We need to create new jobs. Fast forward. Now you look at our market now. Unemployment rate is about 2.2%. That's the lowest of any of the 382 metropolitan areas across the country. You've got right now about 4,200 open jobs throughout Bismarck and Mandan. So our task isn't to create jobs anymore. I mean, we're never going to stop trying to do that. Please understand that. We're never going to rest on our laurels. We're never going to become complacent in what we are in terms of job creation. We're always going to try to do that. But now the focus is more on workforce development, trying to bring more people to this community to fill those open jobs. And that's a tall order. But luckily, we're well positioned, I think, to do that.
Well, and I think we're all seeing it across every sector around the community in both Bismarck and Mandan. You see the signs up everywhere. No workforce. My parents were here visiting from New York, talking about the Dairy Queen, around the corner. No workforce. They said, isn't this their prime season? And I said, it's so difficult. It's so difficult for us to find the employees with the skills that we need. And so I'm really interested. We're going to talk more during the next segment to learn more about what are your efforts with that recruitment, because you've got to be facing a lot of challenges.
Certainly.
And also discuss some of the major players that are involved in BMDA, because it's interesting. Brian and I just met about a week or so ago.
We were up the street.
Yeah, and we were talking about how your board of directors, your president, is it Dr. Lambert?
Dr. Lambert is my immediate past chair, so he just got off.
Who is your current?
Mr. Tim Atkinson, who is
Perfect.
Tim is the chairman of North Dakota Guarantee and Title Company.
Very good guy, very good guy. Well, and Dr. Lambert was just my past co-chair for the United Way campaign. Monsignor Shea is a current chair.
On my board as well.
I know, Vern Dosh from NISC. So it's interesting, these folks are the strong community leaders that keep our community strong and really help to guide the direction that the community is going in. And it's not just about economic development. It's also about giving back to your community and taking care of everyone.
We're so fortunate in this community that even as we grow and we make that transition from let's call it a big town to a small city, we're so lucky that we have individuals like that, and whether it's on my board or yours.
Well, and individuals like you, Mr. Brian Ritter,
Thank you,
President and CEO of Bismarck Mandan Development Association. We will be coming back in just a couple minutes. Before we leave, we are looking for some volunteers. Give a local child the opportunities they deserve. We're recruiting school-based volunteer readers, tutors, and mentors to assist children in need. Go to volunteerbizman.com or call us at United Way at 255-3601. Come back in just a couple of minutes to hear more from Brian Ritter. Welcome back to United Way's Community Talk. I'm your host, MSA United Way Executive Director Jenna Gullo, and co-hosting with me today, Mr. Scott Hansen.
Yeah, glad to be here.
How are you doing, Scott?
Good. A little chilly this morning. I still got my jacket on, but
yeah.
That's
I
North
decided
Dakota for
I'm
you.
not going to complain on day one of winter.
It's not day one of winter, Jenna. It's still fall.
There's going to be frost.
There will not be frost.
I think there was frost last week.
We're gonna agree to disagree.
So, gentlemen, we have on our show today Mr. Brian Ritter from BMDA. Thanks,
An
Brian.
eternal optimist as well, because it is not going to frost, Jenna.
Well,
you keep bringing it up, that might happen.
They say that what you throw out to the universe, that may happen. So maybe you were optimistic years ago. How long have you been at BMDA?
I've been at the BMDA for about 11 years now.
So maybe you threw that out to the universe. Oil.
That's a lot of good mojo out there. It's a lot of good vibes.
Way to go. We really owe it all to you, Brian.
Well, I
We
can't take
owe
credit
it
for all
all
of it.
to you.
Can't take credit for all of it, but some.
Okay, so talk to me. We were just talking about a couple different things that I want to go a little bit deeper in. We're talking about how your role at BMDA has changed from developing business opportunities and recruiting businesses to come to recruiting the labor force. How are you going about that?
Well, I think it's important to realize that there are two components really to the workforce situation or the labor force in Bismarck and Mandan. First, you've got the attraction of outside talent, because certainly, even if we took all the unemployed people.
Don't tell them about the weather.
Even if we took everyone who's unemployed in Bismarck Mandan right now, we would still not fill all 4,200 of those open jobs. Wow. That just wouldn't happen. Our labor force right now is about 70,000 people. So even if you took that small percentage, we wouldn't fill all those open jobs. So we've got to focus on, we've got to look at how do we bring people to the community? How do we get the word out? How do we convince them that it's not 10 months of winter, 1 month of fall, and then 1 month where it's nice enough to go in the river? We've got some perception issues there. We've also got a housing situation, and I think maybe Dwight's going to talk about that a little, in the next segment. But we have to, as a community, play on our strengths. Play on the fact that we have opportunity no matter what field you're in. If you're white collar, blue collar, something in between, we've got opportunity. We have some challenges, again, housing, things like that. But we're looking at ways how to do that. How do we brand the community? How to create an awareness? The other component is what I'll call workforce development, and that is taking that existing population, training them in jobs where we need them. It doesn't make sense if you have if you don't have any open teacher positions, but yet we're going to send 2,000 students to go become teachers and then expect them to come back and fill what jobs? That doesn't make sense. We as a community have to focus our efforts, and that starts all the way down in high school. At the Career Academy in Bismarck Public Schools and Mandan Public Schools, we have to start in high school, and then we have to do a better job of connecting what those business needs are with what our training capacities are in higher education.
So talk to us a little bit about what are some of those focus areas.
So if you look at, if we took and quantified where all those openings were, that we talked about, that first category, it's service. We talked about before the show started. You look around town, you look at the help wanted signs, you've got a service category out there. If you very broadly classified the next most open occupations, they would fall under sales. And obviously I think some would say it's a talent, not so much a skill. If we went right below that, healthcare. Look at our economy, look at our downtown in Bismarck, and parts of Mandan. Healthcare between Sanford, St. Alexis, that's a lot of open jobs, and it's a lot of open careers, and it's a wide variety. It's not just brain surgeons, it's not just janitors. It's everything in between. So we've got a tremendous amount of variety there in healthcare. Again, when I talk about workforce development, we have to talk about our education component in Bismarck and Mandan. You look at our higher ed community. I know people don't think about Bismarck Mandan as a college town, but think about it for a second. Last weekend we had the United Tribes Powwow, which is a great event. Grand entry was gorgeous. So now you've got 1,000 students out on the campus of United Tribes, and they're training a lot of different skill sets. You go further down the hill, you go up the hill to University of Mary, you've got 3,000 students out there, liberal arts majors who are doing everything from baccalaureate, bachelor's level degrees to master's degrees to doctoral programs. That's a lot of new workforce being trained. Hopefully we hold on to them when they graduate. Then you come back into town, you go to North Bismarck, you go to Bismarck State College. BSC is the third largest college in the state behind UND and NDSU. They've got 4,000 students on that campus. They have a waiting list for on-campus housing because they're growing so quickly. What that gives us is an advantage over any other community in this country because we have the ability to train here in our own backyard. And if we can get those students here, we can train them here, then I feel a lot better about our chances of keeping them here once they graduate. We don't want to see them out. We don't want to see them leave. We want them to stay here, get their education here, and then get a job here.
Do you see any of the universities or BSC or UTTC changing or modifying their curriculum, their programs?
We talked about the volunteers in our community before the last break. We've got great college presidents and great staff and great faculty who have come to the business community openly and willingly and said, tell us what your needs are. Tell us where the open positions are. Let us know what we can do to help fill those jobs. Because we have a tribal college, a community college, and a traditional liberal arts college, we've got a great variety. We've got a great willingness on their behalf to work with us, to work as the business community to fill those jobs. That's why I'm so optimistic we'll get past this labor situation. We'll fill those jobs because we've got the ability to do it.
So, question. One of the things that we're all struggling with is that one of the greatest needs are those in the service industry. How do we attract or fill those positions when the cost of living is so high?
Jenna, you're exactly right. In a service category, there is no particular training program. There's no course of study that's going to get you there. For us, really what we've come back to, and I think the community has, is looking at that housing question, because if you're going to bring that category of employee here, of course, you want to find a place to live. But of all the new multifamily or single-family housing starts, you mentioned it, those cost of living has increased. So what we're proposing is you take it all the way back down to the base level, that infrastructure, those streets, roads, curb, gutter, sewer, those things. And let's as a community, look at how we pay for those things. Let's look at how we put them in the ground. Let's look at what we ask our developers to come up with as they're developing that infrastructure. Because if we do that better, if we do that as well as we possibly can, and we look at some new ways possibly of doing that, I'm convinced we'll improve and get to a point where we can afford to get infrastructure into the ground and get new houses built, get new apartments built, and get them built faster. And if we open up more property, hopefully a little bit more cheaply. That's, I think, how we're going to get to the service category you just mentioned. It's going to have to start at the very ground level.
So if there's less demand on apartments, rents go down, does that affect the prices of houses?
It certainly could, because the housing market is just that. It's a market. It's a function of supply and demand. But I would say to you this, Jenna. I don't see that demand changing, at least in the foreseeable future. If we look at all the projects, you drive around Bismarck and Mandan and you look at all the projects, all the business growth, all the opportunity, maybe we won't grow at this 90-degree angle like we have been, where it's going to go straight up all the time. Maybe it'll level out a little bit, but this community will continue to grow. Remember, back during the recession, this community was the only metro area in the country to not be designated as actually in recession. We kept growing when the rest of the country was stuck. We've got a diverse economy. We've got a great higher ed sector. So we're going to keep growing. Maybe it won't go in this breakneck pace. Maybe that's all right. But we're going to keep growing. I don't think the demand's going to change, Jenna. I think it'll change in the way it looks. I think it'll change in the way it feels, because we'll plateau, but we'll be at a new level. Mm-hmm. It's not going to go back down. I mean, we had this conversation when I was in your office a couple weeks ago. When this growth rate plateaus a little bit, it's not going to go back down to where it was in the 90s or the 80s. We're going to find ourselves at a new normal. It's a cliche term, but it's the truth. And we're going to have to find some ways to address those situations and issues that arise.
And so our Bismarck Mandan area is the 5th fastest growing metro in the United States, and Forbes ranked us number 4 for best small places for business and career. Why do you believe that to be true, Brian?
I think it's the sheer level of opportunity here. I mean, if you are, I don't care what age you are, I don't care what your background is, I think truly here in Bismarck Mandan, you have the opportunity to become or be what you want to be. Are there challenges? Of course. There are always going to be challenges. But we've got a tremendously diverse economy. We're the state capital. You've got government, you've got healthcare, energy, higher ed, and all those things that build on top of it really create a pyramid that looks like our economy here. And in that pyramid, in those sectors, there's opportunity. And people will come for that opportunity. I firmly believe it.
And Brian, you said even if every person that was able to get a job got one of those jobs, we would still not fill all the available jobs. So how does it work? How do we have an unemployment rate? What's at what percent?
It's 2.2. And if you go back to your college economics class, which I'm sure everyone wants to right now, full employment, or ideally the level where you've got the ideal level of open jobs, positions, things like that, is about 5%. So now we get down to 2%. How it happens? Everyone who wants to work or can work is in the workforce. In addition, I'm not real proud of this fact, but we, at one point, North Dakota led the nation in the number of individuals or residents who held 2 jobs. I think all of your listeners and everyone in this room can probably think of somebody who works 2 jobs in Bismarck and Mandan.
A lot of our clients at United Way do.
Absolutely. That's how, Jenna. That's how you get to 2%.
Very interesting. Thank you for that.
For that economics lesson that you needed so badly this morning.
I think a lot of listeners were really, really curious about how that all works. Brian, thank you so much.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Everything you're doing at BMDA. We're looking for greater partnerships
Absolutely.
with your group. I know that you work very closely with the Chamber of Commerce. Every time I see you, just got done with meeting with Kelvin Noland.
I hope he's listening.
I hope he is. He's a United Way board member.
Oh,
again,
boy. Well,
doing
then
a lot
I'll
for
keep
the
it clean.
business community. So, real quick, how are you different than the Chamber of Commerce for our listeners who don't know?
I would say it like this. The chamber we always look to as that voice for the business community. I mean, legislatively, policy-wide, it's that voice for the general business community. The BMDA is that side working on the infrastructure issues, the behind-the-scenes, the backroom stuff that helps projects and issues get addressed.
Well, thank you
Thanks for having me, and thanks for your work.
For all you're doing, Brian. We will
Likewise.
be back. We have a great guest coming on. We have Dwight from the North Dakota Housing Authority coming on in just a few minutes. Join us, United Way's Community Talk on Super Talk 1270.